This lesson will focus on ePedagogy for the K-12 learner, as well as some principles of online course design. What makes up an online course and what's special about K-12 learners? Online courses are an excellent way to reach 21st century learners. It's a global community, and traditional approaches that used to emphasize memorization or application of simple procedures are not advancing learners' critical thinking skills or autonomy, which in this case means independence. So the question becomes, how do we safely engage students who are 18 years and younger in a global environment? How do you teach them to become a global citizen? And part of the answer is going to come through online experiences. Online courses provide a way to safely immerse students in new experiences. If you'd like to try a new experience, click down at the bottom of the screen. In this course, you'll go through the following agenda of topics. And you'll need to recall the concept of Gagne's 9 instructional events. This will play into some ideas we're going to work with later. Take a moment if you need to review. At the end of this lesson, learners will be able to state the relationship of cognitive development to K-12 online course design. The following are some key terms you need to be aware of. We're going to get started with the umbrella in which you're going to work. So anything you design online, you're going to need to keep these two concepts in mind. And the first is Piaget's level of cognitive development, and the second will be Vygotsky's social development theory, also known as his cultural historical development theory. What these two things are is they're basically outlines of the development of a child's brain. Piaget outlined the level of development that a child progresses through and basically states what their brain is capable of in different age ranges. Vygotsky stated that a child learns from others, but may need support to do so. What's most important to realize about K-12 learners is that they're still learning how to learn. So as adults, you know if you're a good procrastinator, you know how long it takes you to read and comprehend something. 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, they have not figured that out yet. So any type of online coursework you do, you need to also provide not only the content, but strategies and abilities for them to take and internalize that concept. Piaget said that children learn through continuous interactions with the world. Students enter school between 5 to 6 years old, so they're going from the pre-operational to the concrete stage. Okay, concrete means that they can see it, they can hear it, and they can feel it. Okay, they're just starting to really understand logical thinking and flow, which will affect your online courses. They're supposed to be designed logically, but a child that maybe is just entering this stage or struggling in this stage might not be able to follow a logical flow without scaffolding or help. Formal operations are all about abstract thinking. Students can think about the future, they're more big picture, they're also able to generalize or transfer concepts. An important thing to realize is that children in the concrete operational stage can solve problems through inductive reasoning, but will struggle with deductive. An example of this may be that a child can understand that A is greater than B, and that B is less than C, and that they can understand those two concepts and provide examples of that. But when asked to go to the next level and state a relationship between A and C, they are unable to do that yet. Vygotsky also had certain development levels from primitive to what he called the highest forms of cognition. He also focused on the idea of very basic thinking and ability, moving up to self-directed, being able to provide multiple categories, and abstract thought as well. His main idea was that all learning comes from others, and his official standpoint was that this is a teacher-to-student relationship. He had what was called the more knowledgeable other, where the student would be watching someone who is the more knowledgeable other or the teacher in that situation and then mimic or learn that behavior from them. In today's philosophies, we tend more to think about peer collaboration and that students will learn from each other, but you do need to realize there must be a more knowledgeable other that can help model the necessary skills used to complete a task. The zone of proximal development is right over here on the right. Okay, the sweet spot of learning is kind of this like middle purple area here. You want your students and activities to all be in this area. If your activities are too easy, they're not going to learn anything. And if your activities are too hard, they're also not going to learn anything. So you need to make it where it's just out of their ability level and that they can do it, but that they might just need a little bit of help here and there. You can do that through what we have now called and labeled scaffolds through universal design, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. The following chart is just a comparison of the two. I think if you took a little bit from each side, you would do just fine with K-12 design. The most important thing is remembering that children are learning how to think. They don't have those philosophies and ideas already down, but you are also responsible for creating situations where they can manipulate concepts, where they can invent their own knowledge about the world, that they are being encouraged to ask questions, that they're having positive interactions with instructors and peers, that you're providing scaffolding, social interactions, cultural development, and that you are keeping in mind the idea of their biological stages and developmental appropriateness. There's two concepts that will help you achieve this as you think about Piaget and Vygotsky. Learner-centered environments. That's a framework where the learner is an active participant. There's high engagement, high interest activities. It's self-paced, which is excellent for online learning. There's a consumption of knowledge as well as a creation. Of course, this would have to be appropriate to the level of cognitive development in which they are able to complete. Okay, you wouldn't ask an 8-year-old to create a hypothetical situation because they're not quite ready for that yet, that they could probably identify or manipulate situations that have been given to them. You're going to see individual and group work. You're also going to see problem or project-based learning, which is part of Vygotsky's social learning theory. This might be the most appropriate educational framework to apply. 21st century learning needs higher level skills of thought, problem solving, and communication, which can all happen through this sort of framework. Piaget also agreed, saying that a child needs to be the active role in the constructive process of knowledge. But once again, you have to remember that they can only understand it if you've developed the structures and forms of understanding with which to do so, which will connect us right into scaffolding. So scaffolding fits in and has come from the concept of Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. They're intentional instructional designs that will help students move beyond current capabilities. So the good thing is that technology really lends itself to this because there's many natural and built-in ways to present information in multiple forms for your learner. So those audio-visual differences can be set up very easily in an online environment. So scaffolds should address experience with technologies, hearing, visual, motor disabilities, as well as the rest of the list, which I won't read to you, but you can take a look at. So examples of experience with technologies. So if I am providing an online course for 11-year-olds and they don't know how to format a Word document, then part of my scaffolding would be teaching students how to scaffold a Word document. If I am providing a video for my students and they are unable to learn from a video, if I have not taught them how to watch a video and learn from it, then a scaffold could take the form of a graphic organizer where students are taking notes in increments, and the notes would then provide a reminder for them later, which could then transfer into logical memory. According to Vygotsky, this is where they can do things without visual cues or graphic organizers. So they might need the graphic organizer to start as a scaffold, and then by the end they're moving on to that higher cognitive level where they won't need graphic organizers. They can just watch a video and then recall what's needed from it. There are so the first step of an online course is that you have a strong instructional model. So Gagne's 9 instructional events was used originally in person-to-person teaching, but anything that was used in a non-digital learning experience could be transferred to a digital world. And you want to use things that are applied and tested over time. So these are the pieces of a course structure. And I'm just kind of going to go through some of the major components and then some of the big differences for K-12. When you have an online course, you are a guide. With K-12, you don't want a learner introduction, even though you want an instructor introduction. These are minors. It might be more appropriate to have a teacher and student relationship versus a student and a community relationship just yet. That's an abstract thought for them, that there are people reading their posts or their ideas that could be 6 time zones out. So you might want to keep it small and keep your learner in a private spot for the moment. You're also responsible for teaching online manners or netiquette. Okay, these students are learning how to learn, and they need to understand what's appropriate. Learning objectives have to be aligned to state standards, district expectations. As adults, we learn things that we have, drives to learn, but as a K-12 student, you have to have a basic educational foundation. Your assessment should really allow for self-reflection, which would help them further in their cognitive development as they consider what they need to move past, and feedback will help you do that. The reading level of your audience needs to be taken into consideration when creating instructional materials, course activities, or doing any kind of learner interaction. You could have an excellent article, but if your student can't read it, it won't be worth anything. This is where a scaffold could come in, where you're providing some kind of note-taking strategy or a digital tool that may help with the reading level of the student, so they can still access the same content as everybody else, but they're getting some kind of scaffold to help them achieve it. You need to make sure you have culturally diverse and bias-free material. These are not independent thinkers just yet. So you need to make sure that you're not swaying them one way or the other with ideas. And all materials need to be age appropriate, including any advertisements that may pop up on the screen. Technology needs to be obtainable at all times for students. Not all students have technology at home, but you have a responsibility to make sure that they are learning to use it in today's world. And universal design and special education needs to be taken into consideration. If there's a student who needs enlarged print, you need to make sure that that is available for them. I thought this was a very interesting idea that students taking online courses for advanced courses appear to do better than students needing any kind of remediation in content. Because if you are providing all these things and considering their development and providing multiple scaffolds for them to access the content, then every student should be doing just fine in an online course. This is a summary of our online course designed for K-12. Essentially, all the components of your online course should be guided and shaped by the following items. If we click here, you're going to see that you can click up here on the title and get some practice in with these terms and ideas. But anything you design here needs to be thought of here. Okay, are you following a solid, well-tested instructional model? Is it learner or student-centered? Are you providing scaffolds and including concepts of universal design? And of course, is the child cognitively ready for these things? Are you taking into consideration their ability to think logically, their ability to connect materials, their ability to create examples, their ability to analyze examples, and finally their ability to learn? How well have they already been taught to learn the materials? At the end of